So you know where the Maya are, I hope. Eastern Mesoamerica, Yucatan Peninsula, Chiapas in Mexico, down through western Honduras. So in modern terms, this is a little bit of Mexico, Belize, Guatemala, and a little bit of El Salvador, and a little bit of Honduras here. Copan is in the very edge of Honduras. So this is the end of Mesoamerica. Copan is basically the end of it. And what Mesoamerica has in common are a set of calendars. And this is in your little summary in the AP guide. But it's not one calendar. There's solar calendar, which is the 365. Everybody figures that out in the world, right? You just count. And you have a trouble with that quarter day, whatever you do with that. But and then the important calendar mostly, and we'll get into the calendars more in a minute with the calendar stone, but the 260-day ritual calendar, 260 days. And this Mesoamerica all subscribes to those two calendars. The Maya added another one. Now, I don't know, did you get any end of the world 2012 questions?
Yes.
Okay, simple answer to that. The calendars are cyclical. They're not fixed. The only one that's fixed is the Maya long count. So a cyclical calendar means those 260 days just go around and they start up again, and they keep doing that in perpetuity. And it's going to slip in relative to the 365. You've got two cogs going. Every 52 years, those two calendars come back to the same point. 52 years is their sort of like century. It's called, for the 52-year cycle, we call it the calendar round. Calendar round, come back around every 52 years. So, but the long count is one that is a fixed count of days that have elapsed. It's like clicking a button, clicking the people who come to the movie. Clickety, 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 click every day. The end of the world was supposedly when, and there was a very large cycle that ended, and the smaller cycles that end, the calendar makes sense. It's not totally random. A bunch of cycles ended at the same time, big ones, medium ones, and little ones. And the long count, the elapsed days, just how many days since, and the point, the arbitrary point is August 12th, 3114 BCE. August 12th, 3114. That's in our calendar when the Maya said BCE. That's when the Maya said time, this era of time began. And they've been counting the days ever since then. Counting, millions and millions of days, right? Well, they got to the end of their counting that they had spaces for. Like just use the odometer on a car. Although kids now, they see it in LED, but it used to be kind of like clicking around. There must be some better analogy for this, if you can think of it.
Manual anymore, it's all just digital.
Yeah, but anyway, you can say in old cars, it went 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, and when you got to 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, it turned over to 0. It didn't mean your car stopped. It wasn't the end of anything. It was the end of the counting. So that's all that 2012, December 21st, 2012 was the end of their biggest number that they had a system to record, and it got back to 0. But our interpretation of it from a linear Western lack of understanding was that it was over. And even if you start over at 0 in a cyclical worldview, you just start over at 0. You begin another set of millions of days, and it's like, of course you do, you know. So it was an imposition and a misunderstanding of what these calendars were. And get this, the Aztec version of the calendar is a little bit different. The end of the world for the Aztec was in 2007, and nobody gave a damn. Nobody gave a damn. Plus, they'll always show you the calendar stone when they're talking about the Maya calendar. And the calendar stone is Aztec. So they always get those mixed up, always. Okay, we'll do some more calendar, but anyway, that's where the Maya are. I like to show this diagram, which looks like the London Tube, because it's supposed to be the political alliances. Red is that they don't like each other, and green is that they like each other, of the different Maya city-states. Because they were city-states just like Athens and Sparta. So you've got a perfect comparison there. Same kind of idea. You've got your little local rulers, and they're sparring with each other, and nobody's trying to make a state. There was no Maya empire, no Maya state. There were these little pockets of dynasties and people, but it was very complicated. So that's what that represents. And of course, they're known for their pyramids, but we didn't have room for me to put a beautiful pyramid in there, sadly. But if you want it, this is Tikal, T-I-K-A-L.
Would Tikal be the one that you would choose first rather than Chichen Itza or
Yeah,
Tony
yeah. Chichen Itza, the Castillo, which is the big pyramid there, is more influenced by central Mexico. It's not as really Maya. So that's its problem. It's very square, you know, and if you look at this one, it's round, taller, skinnier, rounded, and see the roof, you've got a roof comb on the top of the temple. You have a little bitty temple on the top. You have a fairly wide staircase, and then you have 9 levels. It's a funerary. This would have been great because to compare with Giza, because these 9 levels show that there's a burial underneath. And this is just a big, giant burial monument, just like the Great Pyramid and stuff. So this is Tikal Temple 1. And there's an absolutely gorgeous, I was at Tikal for the first time, 2 across from each other in this big, wonderful plaza. And 9 is the number of the levels of the underworld. The underworld is conceived of as having 9 levels. And the upper world, the celestial, is conceived of as having 13. So what's interesting is the body is down under there, and the 9 levels that are going up are the reverse of what the body, the soul, is going through. He's going through the 9 levels below, and that's that mirroring of things, sort of inversion. And he's on the other side where things are opposite. So the 9 levels go up instead of 13 levels going up and 9 steps going down or something like that. It's a little weird.
Once he's gone down, he will go up.
If he's done it correctly.
Vision of the celestial.
Oh yeah, and the roof comb up there, and the idea that he's projected way up into the sky. Yeah, these are I forget how many feet, but it's
As you go through the levels
it's
of the
like
underworld, are you
15
learning-
stories tall, I think, or something like that.
As you go through the levels of the underworld, are you learning things that you need?
You're facing dangers and we don't have a Book of the Dead. You know, that's the exact prescription of what happens. We have images, and if the Maya images have a black background, they're set in the underworld, like a ceramic or something, if you want to show one of those. They're in the underworld. And there's a lot of being attacked by snakes, and the Aztec tell us exactly what your problem is at each of the levels. There's a diagram. There's obsidian winds. Obsidian is will cut you, sharp winds, and there's places where you're going to be eaten by dogs and stuff like that. So the Aztec do have one of what happens at each level.
And it's a matter of getting through those. And
Yeah, you have to conquer all of them.
and if you don't, then you're stuck there.
Pretty much, yeah. So it is, you will be reminded of Dante's Circles of Hell,
Yeah.
but it's not punishment. If everybody does it, it's not punishment.
Experiential.
Yeah, you
everyone,
have to.
Everyone has to do it.
you-
This isn't a result of bad
You have,
behavior.
but the similarity would be that you earn going up. That would be the core similarity. And I think that's, if you study visual perception, or you think about our human bodies, going up is harder for us against gravity. So it has to have a conquest, a reward kind of element.
I was just thinking about Barovia as well. It's 10, right, levels, but it's learning as you
And it's a spiral.
you move, and then as you get above, you move beyond time to a more, perhaps, I don't know if they wouldn't use the word celestial, so you'd have to be careful, but
Yeah.
if they know one, they could begin begin to think about the two of them as a journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a journey is very good.
Do they fear that because of this?
Not really. It's, I mean, I can't say psychologically every person who lived back then, but like even people who were going to be sacrificed, it was a great honor. It was an extraordinary honor. And so sometimes your family would get promoted amongst the Inca if they've sacrificed your child. You would get a total promotion.
That's a frightening comparison.
Yeah.
With Islamic.
Yeah, I know. But it's very, very tiny amounts. I was having a conversation last night with Claudio about, no. Who did I have dinner with? Yeah, Claudio, yeah. In Latin American studies. And the numbers of sacrifices are greatly exaggerated, first of all. We have not found archaeologically these mass graves of tens of thousands of people. Second of all, the Spanish had a vested interest in making the indigenous people seem barbaric so that they could justify conquering them, taking their land, and changing their religion, which is what they wanted to do. So they had to make them worse, and that aggrandized the Spanish as being better. So the Spanish would say things like, there were skulls of the dead in the Aztec capital. There were 10,000 skulls, and we know the size of the skull rack. The skull rack would have had to have been 500 feet tall for there to be 10,000 skulls on it, just physically, how big a human skull is. So they were using millions and millions, billions of stars. So we have gotten a really big, exaggerated idea of human sacrifice. And that's one of the myths that, yes, they did. So did the ancient Greeks. Pretty much every culture sacrifices. Every culture sacrifices. Judaism and Christianity are based on a sacrifice.
Yeah.
So let's just be clear that one people is not really any worse than the other. And it's a way of primitivizing the Americas and making them continuing 16th century ideas. We don't continue 16th century ideas in most anything else at the moment. So let's drop the conquistadors as, authorities.
Wasn't it more bloodletting though in Maya? And
Yes. Not a lot of sacrifice. Just prisoners of war were sacrificed. War was not for killing on the battlefield, the same as it's not with Native North American. If you can get close enough to someone to touch their hair, they will usually, that's counting coup. Oh, my hair's coming out. You've got them. And you take them home, and you make them a slave, or you sacrifice them in a ritualized manner because you are giving their life force back to the universe. You are not just hurting them because you don't like them. So that's a very different, there are different rules of engagement. The rules of engagement are different cross-culturally.